I was scrolling through the Met Gala looks as you do, and I saw Sabrina Carpenter's look pop up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to recreate her makeup look. I loved her whole vibe, especially with that burgundy color. I think it's absolutely gorgeous on her. But I really loved her eye look, and especially how it has that kind of doll-eyed effect to it. Like, her eyes look big and bright with this look, but I also like that this eye look is kind of bold with having the crease line just like very defined and not really blended out, and I've never really tried something like that on myself before. So I wanted to just play around with products that I already have in my collection and try my best to recreate Sabrina Carpenter's look. I did my brows and foundation off camera, and for my foundation I used the YSL All Hours foundation. I can only use this foundation when I have the tiniest bit of a tan on, which I do right now, but I love the finish of this foundation. It is really liquidy and very lightweight feeling, but it has a beautiful, almost medium to full coverage finish. And it has a really nice kind of soft matte finish, which is kind of what Sabrina has going on. But I want to get started on this eye look, so let's zoom in. I'm going to start by priming my eyes with my favorite eyeshadow primer. This one is by Rare Beauty. And then I'm blending that out with a fluffy concealer brush. Then I'm going to set that primer with some powder. I'm using the Huda Beauty loose powder. For my palette today, I'm going to use the Huda Beauty Icy Nude, and I'm going to start with the shade Cold Plunge on a fluffy packing brush. And I'm just going to start by packing the shade on my entire eyelid. Her eye look does look completely matte, so I'm going to use this just to make sure everything is nice and flat and just one light color. Honestly, my eyeshadow primer and powder did a pretty good job at just getting my eyes ready for the look, so this step might not be super necessary, but I'm doing it anyways. So let's do this crease line, and honestly, it kind of scares me a little bit. It's funny because I just posted a tutorial the other week where I showed how to do an eye look for hooded eyes, which involves kind of drawing on a fake crease. So I'm kind of doing that same technique today, but this time I'm just not going to blend it out really at all. So I think for my brush, I want to use a pencil brush because again, I want to be super precise with this just to show you where I'm going to place the line. So again, kind of a hooded eye technique. So I don't want to place my shadow in here because my eyelid would kind of cover that up. This crease line is going to be drawn kind of right up here. So above this natural fold in my eye. And I think I'm just going to go straight in with this shade Unapologetic. So I have that shadow on the tip of my brush. I'm just going to go for it, but I'm going to make sure my brush is like perpendicular to my eyelid. Okay, so I started with a really light hand and I'm just doing a very subtle kind of back and forth motion. Okay, I think that shape looks okay, but now I want the entire line to be like the same amount of pigment because like this part looks darker than this part. I picked up a little bit more shadow and now I'm just gonna try to even out this entire line. This looks so weird to me, but this is literally only the first step I've done so far. So I kind of wiped all the shadow off of my brush and now I'm just kind of going back and forth on top of the line just to soften it out a little bit. But I'm really trying not to make the line like too thick. I feel like I might be blending this a little bit too far down. I don't know. I'm gonna go back to that first brush I started with and just kind of blend right below that line. I don't have any extra shadow on this brush either. I keep looking at Sabrina's picture and I'm just like, it really is just a harsh line in the crease. Honestly, out of this entire look, this might be the hardest part. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the line on this eye. Who knew that it would be so challenging just to get a harsh line in your crease? Because this is just like the opposite of what I normally do, you know? I'm also having a hard time getting these lines even just because this eye kind of droops down a little bit more than this side. I don't know, so this one's like higher up than that one. Ooh. I'm already struggling. This might be a trust the process look / video. I'm gonna take a small firm blending brush and I'm just gonna very softly run over that line. I'm realizing that my look doesn't have to be exactly like Sabrina's. It can be inspired by Sabrina. So let me soften out this harsh line. Just do a little bit more blending in the crease. So I'm gonna blend and kind of soften out the line and then go back in with more shadow and kind of redefine that line. I'm kind of blending just so it has more softer edges to it. So I'm gonna add more color and then go back in and soften it a little bit. Okay, is it perfect? No. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna do my under eye concealer really quick because a lot of this work is gonna be on the lower lash line, so I want this area to be ready to go. And I'm gonna make sure I add some to this very outer part of my eye because this area is really bright on her look. Blending that out with my fluffy concealer brush. And then setting that with my Huda Beauty powder. So also for this look, Sabrina has a really white, matte, bright inner corner highlight. So for that, I'm gonna take Avalanche from the palette. I have that on that small firm blending brush I was using earlier, just because it's nice and small, and I'm really gonna pack on this white in here. So I am doing a few layers of this shadow to get it nice and bright. I always forget how pretty a matte white inner corner highlight can be, just because it really does just brighten the area. Normally I use something kind of sparkly in this spot, but I think this looks really nice too. And again, that's kind of the fun part of like doing this look and just recreating other makeup looks, is that it makes me try techniques and combos that I normally don't do myself. So I actually want to move on to the lower lash line before I do the wing, because the lower lash line has a lot of definition. Of course, there's that bright white in the waterline that really adds to that kind of dull-eyed effect. But then there's also a lot of brown definition at the lash line as well. So I'm going to take this tiny angled brush in more of that unapologetic shade, and I'm going to stamp this across my entire lash line, and I'm trying to stay really close to the roots of my lower lashes. And you can see on her lower lash line, the shadow really starts at the end of her like lower lash area. Normally when I do my shadow, I like to extend this area and kind of make it smoky and stuff. But again, I'm trying to follow this different technique today. So I'm making kind of a harsh stop at the edge of my eye right there. Then I'm gonna go back to my pencil brush with nothing on it and just kind of smudge out this line. Then on that pencil brush, I'm going to take a little bit of High Life, and again, just kind of using that to soften this lower part of the line. Then I'm going to take She's Rich on that tiny angled brush, and I'm really going to stamp this along the base of my lower lash lines just to make sure that area is nice and dark. And normally when I do my lower lash line, sometimes I'm a little sloppy with my blending, but I'm really trying my best not to get any shadow on my waterline right now because I don't want to mix this dark shadow with that white I'm going to put on there later. So that's why I've been using this like super tiny brush too. Okay, here's how the lower lash line is looking so far. Now for that little half wing, I'm going to take She's Rich on my tiny angled brush, and I'm going to do my best to do a little baby half wing. I'm going to start by stamping some of the shadow on the outer part of my top lash line. And again, I'm trying my best not to connect the eyeliners, which is really hard for me. And honestly, it might not really work for my eye shape, but I'm trying my best. Because you can see on Sabrina's look, like this area of her eye is really blank right there. Okay, there's my little baby half wings. Now for that bright white in the waterline, I'm gonna try this About Face liner. Okay, so I kind of really built up that liner in my waterline, and up close it looks kind of scary and harsh, but from like far away it really does help just to brighten up and widen the eye. And then just as a little finishing step, I'm gonna go back to that Cold Plunge shade and really add it to this outer part of my eye, because like I said, this area is very blank on her look, and this shade is really close to my skin tone, so I'm just using this to kind of lighten up this area. Now I'm gonna go pop on a ton of mascara and a half lash, so I will be right back. Okay, mascara and lashes are on, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Flare. I've actually been wearing Flare quite a bit recently. I love that it's a little bit more of a bolder half lash. So you can see it adds a lot of lift and volume to the outer corner. So I'm really happy with the lower lash line. I love the little wing, the half lash, but I'm still not super stoked about my harsh line crease right now. So I think I do want to blend it out just a little bit more, so I'm gonna go back to my small firm blending brush and just kind of soften it out. Like I said, this doesn't have to be identical to Sabrina's look, just inspired by is okay with me. And I'm just gonna feel better about myself with a slightly more blended crease here. Okay, wait, I added a little bit more shadow on this eye. That actually looks kind of good. Maybe this brush is the answer. It's just getting the angle right on this side for me is hard. Okay, so kind of messing with the blending a little bit. I think that looks better, a little bit more my style. I feel more comfortable with this. Okay, here's what the eyes look like from a distance. And like I said, I feel like you can really see the doll-eyed effect from far away and just like how much different my eye shape looks than normal. I'm just gonna set the rest of my face really quick with my Kosas Cloud Set Powder. Because again, it does look like she has more of a matte look going on. And then looking at her blush, it actually looks like a very soft blush look, especially for Sabrina. I actually recreated one of her makeup looks, I think it was last year, and it was when she would do that like very heavy bright pink blush. So this is kind of different, but I'm also seeing a bit of contour, especially like right here in her cheeks. And I saw this technique on TikTok that I kind of want to try right now. I think it was Jamie Page who did this. So with contour, instead of putting it under the cheekbones, which is what like I normally do, you want to place it like right in that hollow, in this like center of your cheek area. So I want to try that. And that also kind of looks like what Sabrina has going on because I'm seeing that shadow right here versus right here. So I'm gonna try that with this Anastasia Cream Contour Stick. The shade is called Halftone. Hopefully this works well on top of my set base. I have not tried this before, but that's the fun part about today's video. I'm just like trying new things. Okay. See, that looks weird, right? Then I'm gonna take my BK Beauty 116 and just try to pat it out in that one area. I guess I should have done one side at a time to see the difference, but too late now. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna take my foundation brush and just kind of pat over that a little bit. I do think it contoured my face in a different way though. Like I feel like my cheeks don't normally look like this. I honestly kind of like it though, I don't hate it. Okay, for blush, it doesn't look like she's wearing too glowy of a blush. Again, nothing bright pink either. What do I want to do? Tower 28 matte blush. I beg you don't embarrass me, motherfucker. Okay, I kind of want to try this Tower 28 matte blush. The shade is called Samo Spritzer. I like that it's a little bit more of kind of like a neutral muted shade. It looks like it should go well with the eye look, so let's see. Oh yeah. And then I'm also keeping my blush a little bit lower than I normally do as well. Normally I'm placing my blush like on my actual eyeball, but just to kind of go with that contour, I'm just keeping it a little bit lower than usual. Ooh, that shade's really pretty. I'm happy with that. So it does look like she has the subtlest bit of a glow on her cheeks, and I also want to use something to kind of blend my blush into my under eye area. So my go-to product for that is the Bare Minerals Highlighting Blush in Rose Glow. I'm just taking a little bit of this and I'm going to place it where my blush meets my under eye area, kind of right where I would typically highlight. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of bronzer to my forehead just because I need some color up here. I'm using the Sigma Matte Bronzer in Light. Lots of matte products today. Because I have a lot of matte kind of powder products on my face right now, my skin is feeling and just looking a little bit dry and powdery, and I just got this in PR and I want to try it. It's new from One Size. It's called the Powder Melt Glass Setting Spray. And just the words powder melt sounds like what I want right now, but I don't know if this is going to be like super dewy or what. This is literally a full first impression right now. Little info card here says, melt your powder, not your makeup. Seamlessly melt powder and set your makeup for a smooth glass-like finish that lasts. A glassy film former helps extend makeup wear for up to 12 hours. Oil-free, breathable formula. Step 1, shake. Spray in a circular motion until face is evenly coated. That was a nice mister. Very just like light and fine mist. Nothing too crazy. Nothing like the usual One Size setting spray. That one feels like death when you apply it. It really didn't feel like I put much on my skin, honestly. Okay, wait, my face looks really nice after that. It honestly does look less powdery to me. Okay. Kind of fun seeing some new setting sprays come out. The One Size one, I've been loving the Huda Beauty Easy Bake one, so that's fun. Last step is going to be lips, which is always challenging for me to find the right color combo, especially because I don't have that many different lip colors. I tend to buy and wear and use like the one same color, but it looks kind of brownish. I'm seeing a bright pop in the center to really give it that kind of pouty look. Let me see what I can find in my collection. I'm going to start by just blanking out my lips with my foundation brush. Now for lip liner, I'm going to use my Makeup Forever Endless Cacao because it's more of like a cool toned brown kind of contour shade for me. And I'm just going to line my lips. And then I'm also kind of filling in the edges. Okay, something like that. Now I'm gonna apply this Milani Glossy Plumping Balm in the shade Honey. I'm like trying to blend those together. And then the center of her lips is a little bit brighter, so I'm gonna take this Makeup Forever Super Boost Gloss in the shade Latte and pop that right on the center. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that lip turned out. Okay, and that is the final makeup look. I'm not going to be finishing my hair for this video because I'm filming like a separate TikTok thing right now. But the point of this video was to recreate Sabrina Carpenter's makeup look, so just ignore the curly mess up here. But I gotta say, I think I did a pretty good job at recreating her makeup look. And I had a lot of fun just playing with makeup today, like using products that I already have in my collection and thinking like, oh, what would work to make this makeup look? Tried out some new techniques today, and I don't really think I love the harsh crease on myself, so I kind of made it my own by softening it out a little bit. But I do think I really like how that contour looks on my cheeks, so I might play around with that technique a little bit more. But I'm super happy with how this turned out, so as always, I'm gonna link all the products and brushes that I used today down below for you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.